Hi everyone, this is Chris Chigazia, CEO of Off to Class, and this is the second in our series of videos about how to get your ESL school online. Just a bit of background, we've been helping ESL teachers and schools teach ESL online for the last 6 years, and obviously it's been a bit busy over the last month or so, so we thought it would be a good time to make a series of videos that provide you with everything you need to know about getting your ESL school online so you can make an informed decision for your team. On the next 4 videos, we're going to be going over the 4 key pieces of infrastructure that you need to make a decision around to get your ESL school up and online. But first, this video is about the distinction between asynchronous and synchronous ESL lessons. It's worth pausing here and discussing synchronous versus asynchronous before we get into the 4 key pieces of infrastructure. What do I mean by those 2 words? Basically, it's really simple. A synchronous online ESL lesson is when we're meeting up, our teachers and students are meeting up at the same time, usually by video conference, to have a live conversation-based class that the teacher is leading directly. Asynchronous is the opposite of that. So it's a student is logging in, not at the same time as the teacher, and is taking their own homework or doing their own self-study activities. Usually for most ESL schools, it's going to fall somewhere on that continuum between purely synchronous, so your students are always meeting up with your teachers at the same time, versus purely asynchronous versus it's never at the same time. Wherever you fall on that continuum, wherever your programming falls on that blend between synchronous and asynchronous, what we've always been really preaching at Off Class is to use a teacher-directed approach. So the same way in your centers that you use a teacher-directed approach, obviously your teachers are in the classroom, adding value, helping your learners. The same way you use a teacher-directed approach in your centers, you really need to use a teacher-directed approach when you get online. It's absolutely critical that you don't try to go with some sort of system, some sort of programming, some sort of school where it's completely students are left to their own devices and working on their own independently on some piece of software without your teachers being at the center of the learning equation. It's absolutely essential that whether it's synchronous, obviously teacher-directed online ESL lessons are going to be, covered for the synchronous part, but even for the asynchronous part, it's critical that your teachers are adding value, commenting on students' work, adding that flavor, because at the end of the day, if you're not using your teachers when you get online, you're basically going to be comparing yourself to like a student's self-study app, something like Duolingo. Duolingo is a really popular language learning app. I use it to learn Spanish. And at the end of the day, if that's what your school is competing with, just a piece of software, your students are smart enough to know that Duolingo is free and pretty good. So just before we get into those 4 key pieces of infrastructure, I thought it was a good time to do a video talking about synchronous versus asynchronous and the importance of using a teacher-directed approach regardless of where you fall on that synchronous to asynchronous continuum.